Welcome to Coruzant Technologies, home of the Digital Executive Podcast. Welcome to the Digital Executive. Today's guest is Anthony Santiago. Anthony Santiago is the Chief Operating Officer of New Empire Corporation and its related subsidiaries. He is responsible for the global operations and vertically integrated divisions of all its functional drivers. His key role is to prepare for institutional capital and scalability. As an experienced operational executive, he oversees the organization's procedures and is responsible for maximizing efficiencies to standardize, centralize, and optimize operations and workflow, and to meet returns to his investors and capital partners. As a real estate and investment executive in the private, public, and government sectors, and part of a third-generation private real estate equity family, he has over 25 years of experience where he has raised $100 million for his own private portfolio and continues to assist in raising capital for his family portfolio. His appointment by the New York City Housing Authority's chairman during the Giuliani and Bloomberg administrations were to assist and direct $600 million of development operations. Good afternoon, Anthony. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You bet, Anthony. It's exciting to have you. I know we've talked several times here in the last few weeks, and I'm excited to have you on the show. So, Anthony, first question I want to ask you, and our readership is interested, they see your profile out there on Coruzant.com. You've made a successful portfolio and brand for yourself over the years. What distinguishes you between your competition?
Good question. A good way to start. And, for your listeners, with the market volatility that's shown over the last few weeks in my 30-year career, it's been the ability to be fluid and not rigid, develop really strong teams, and strong at creating vertical integration, I think is a real dynamic way to run a business through the entire ecosystem, by way of introduction and not just in my bio. I spent 30 years in private equity and my family's third generation in this space. And really, we looked at creating critical mass around what's important today is automation and how you use automation. So what's a good way to distinguish myself is capturing and utilizing that all-in-one collaboration and truly working with technology as 5G and IoT comes to fruition. So not being stuck in what's been done in the past, but always creating critical mass and other opportunities. Hopefully that answers a very generic question.
That's very helpful. I just had Abe McCormick on a recent podcast, and he's a digital strategist. And he essentially stated that there are two types of people. There's people that are looking ahead and people that are still staying stagnant or looking behind. And it looks like you have embraced digital transformation in your business. So that's exciting to hear.
Appreciate that. Commercial real estate is an exciting crossroads right now. People have been talking about this asset class of technology and innovation, and we're woefully behind, candidly, as a development and a construction platform. It's a $150 trillion asset class internationally. I think it's about time that we look at embracing and capturing and dedicating some real experience around what the digital transformation will look like in the next 10, 20 years.
I would totally agree. More and more people need to think ahead and utilize what's coming before us and all the changes, be left behind like some of the Fortune 500s have. So thanks for sharing that. So Anthony, next question, we want to know a little bit about your career history. You seem like a serial entrepreneur. What inspires you to chase that American dream, so to speak?
I always try to look at antiquated models that truly need paradigm shift changes, and surely within my asset class, I don't do things outside of the real estate world. But if you look at different food groups in real estate, seniors housing as one, you look at multifamily as another, you look at the generation of potential and the demos and the socioeconomics that are coming down the pipe right now, whether that be the baby boomer in the senior housing world, and or conversely, the millennials out of there, 76 million. If you look at the boomers, Gen X is around 60-ish million, and about 90 million millennial, which is basically a tailwind of opportunity. So when you talk about what inspires me to chase the American dream and conversely be a serial entrepreneur, is always looking to change things that need real, I think, diametrical change and things that are in the process of creating critical mass around, as an example, technology. So I come back to what it's been over the last, 10 years as an asset class from my perspective, real estate. So, we're currently working on something that's kind of exciting. It's called DREAMS, the acronym. It's deconstructing real estate in its entirety, from data, real estate, engineering, artificial intelligence, and medicine, all in one kind of location. So, it helps you live long, helps you age in place better, but it also aggregates and amalgamates data. So things that truly engage me through my career has been ways to, whether it was in the public sector when I was in the housing authority for a couple of terms, and or conversely in my private sector.
Thanks for sharing that. That's very insightful. So, really, can you give our audience a key nugget of wisdom on your consistent personal growth then?
I think the greatest asset that we have in our brand is the intellect and consistently growing within your own field, whether it's by technical skill set, it's your soft skill sets, it's your emotional intelligence, but alleviating professional inertia. A way to sit there and ensure that you're constantly growing. Being in this business for 30 years, I've watched several cycles come and go. We're sitting at a cycle now. The market's changing as we speak, not just because of coronavirus. There's a change that's necessity, whether the 50 basis points that was created yesterday by the Federal Reserve, which probably is not enough, to be candid with you, to get the market spurred again. There is a transition and change. So what I've always tried to do is make sure that I'm staying consistent with the times, learning, speaking to potential individuals that have been in the space as long as I have, and also getting a different perspective of what's going on in the space. So personal growth is a way to invest in yourself before investing in anything else.
That's some great insight to share. I think we tend to forget about that and we look at the bigger picture sometimes too much, or the shiny object, and we need to focus inward. So that's the great share. Thank you. Who is your biggest inspiration and why?
Besides the people that are out there today, Ray Dalio happens to come to mind, with his radical transparency and his methodology of, irrespective of where you're looking at in the value chain of your organization, there's a lot of great sense and lot of intellect, rather, through the course of those around you and surrounding yourself with. But my grandfather, probably, you bring it closer to home and closer to the vest, is someone that I really inspire, and the inspiration and the why was a gentleman that came here in the late 20s, couldn't speak a lick of English, came from Spain, through Latin America, started acquiring assets, from as far up as Boston to as far south as Florida, and everything he could take a train to. When the market crashed in 29, he was liquid. So with literally a suitcase of some capital, he created a good organization, and always learned around him with a gentleman who could not speak English, by the way, wasn't well educated, and just had the luxury of selling an asset in Spain, coming here into the States, and creating a real estate platform and development, more of an investment program for probably several 100,000 square feet. Just shows that when you put yourself and your mind to something, but more importantly, have the ability to ascertain where the market is. And some of that is education, potentially. Some of that is skill. Some of that is art that meets science. And he's always taught us, even when we were younger. I remember being at my first real estate closing as an investment. Back then, we're talking about in the early 70s. There was fax machines, 18 minutes a page that would go through, give or take. So spending from the time I was 5 to the time of my professional career. He ran our organization like a real corporation, a real board of directors, and as a man, had no real formal education, but had a lot of drive.
That is awesome. That's another great example of, immigrants that have come to our country. My great-grandparents, same way, both sides came from the old country, so to speak. So I love to hear those stories. Those are amazing. I think anybody can learn from them. A little bit of hard work will let you have a piece of the pie of that American dream. Thanks for sharing. Last thing before we wrap up, Anthony, I just want to ask you, what advice would you give emerging young leaders in your industry?
First and foremost, I think they should surround themselves with like-minded individuals, locate a mentor early on. I hold an annual Mentee Academy specific to my real estate investment development, obviously, discipline. There's no cost, but the most expensive commodity that we share is our time, obviously. But it's regimented, follows a curriculum, it's a syllabus. It works on all the facets of the space, works within their SWOT analysis. But I would tell those breaking into the space, and I speak to plenty, whether they're coming right out of college, whether they're transitioning from a trade, is surround yourself with those that are engaged in the space, that are a mentor type. I have a mentor to this day that I continue chatting with, and he helps guide my arc and trajectory and narrative of my career. And that's probably the best advice I would give them: to, first of all, get educated, understand the space, breathe it, eat it, sleep it, and get yourself some good rest, because this is a business in real estate that's very fluid. It's volatile. but it's also an incredible space if you spec it correctly, where you can make an incredible amount of capital for yourself and your family. I would say my lead advice, if I was to give the ACE away, the ACE card would be find yourself a really strong mentor.
That's awesome advice. And I would certainly share the same sentiment on that, Anthony. I've talked to a lot of younger folks in my industry in technology, and I definitely share and embrace that same sentiment. So thanks for sharing that. And that's it for the show today, Anthony. I'd like to first thank you for having me on the show. It's a pleasure having you as always, and I look forward to speaking with you in the near future.
Well, thank you, Brian, for having me on, and conversely, wish you and your listeners all the best.